Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. It's the Countdown Show, round 19. I'm Tom Sangster. We've got a huge panel tonight with the SuperCoach experience. Boys, everyone knows Tim Moody, last year's champion. But first, we'll go to Mike. Great to have you on the show for the first time. How's your team travelling?
Yeah, so good to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's gone well. Anyone that follows me on the podcast, I started really shaky. But 1,573, which I'm happy with, but when I'm sitting next to Timmy and that, they're doing just so much better than me. So, just trying to do the best I can to finish.
Enjoy your own wins, brother. Enjoy your own wins.
Well,
for sure.
Speaking of, you're absolutely flying. 21st.
It's getting a bit full on. Yeah, it's getting
huge chance of going back to back, surely.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it huge. I'm not going to rule myself out and say it's impossible, but there's a lot of points. There's 520-ish points away. I don't have a great deal of trades. I had more trades this time last year when I was sitting in first, so it's a bigger challenge.
So, speaking of trades, got big decisions coming up, given that there's a COVID crisis hitting the NRL. There's talk that there's going to be bubbles again. It's not going to happen in the next couple of weeks, but it could happen prior to the finals.
I think that's good. I think we need that.
Well,
it's not good for the families, but
if you're in terms of SuperCoach, what are your tactics here? I mean, we've already lost. I'm just going to run through it here.
Yep.
You've got Brett Kamali and Tim Sheen, so two of the coaches out for the Tigers. Avarillo's out for the Bulldogs. You've got Jake Turbo and Andrew Davey out as well this week. There's talk that there's going to be lockdowns around Sydney and New South Wales soon, regardless of what's happening with the NRL. Yeah,
right.
So it's getting pretty crazy in the COVID situation right now. The NRL is saying via Volandis that there could be bubbles, could be lockdowns, etc. So what are your plans? How many trades do you have? What are you thinking around this?
All you're doing at the moment, Tom, is giving me anxiety because I've been doing my numbers for trades. I go, if I use 2 this week and 2 that week, and then maybe 2 the week after, that leaves me 1 to emergency. Now, I think the emergency thing. Let's look at who's out. No one relevant this week. All these people, Tim Sheens, we can take that. But I think it's a warning. It's letting us know that it's around. Take the warning, because next week it could be the 5-6 biggest names in SuperCoach.
So are you going to go hard with your trades, or has this COVID news basically said to you, hold back?
I think we're going to have to go hard and just sort of pray to the SuperCoach gods that they don't sneeze on my players.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing is, if they do go into bubbles, then there's not going to be too many people getting COVID. Whereas I actually have a lot of trades. I've got 8 trades after this week with 2 this week. So I'm actually hoping that COVID ravages the competition, and then I'll be able to pull a few trades.
Do a Stephen Bradbury come from?
I don't really want to say that. 8,000th.
That's in a respectable rank. That's the top 10%.
We'll talk about 5%, 6%. I'd say.
Solid,
to be honest. What are your thoughts with these COVID tactics?
A little bit different. I think, if you're on the opposite end, where I know a lot of coaches would be using their boost, they'd be very low on trade. So what I would be doing is kind of just making sure in each position you've got a backup player. So in your dummy halves, make sure you've got a backup player. Because, for example, say you only have Cameron Munster, no backup 5'8", and he goes down with COVID, I know he just had it, but say a play goes down and you don't have a backup, you could be in some trouble, especially if you've already used your 2 trades. So I think ensure you've got at least one bit of depth in each position. And I think holding on to trades has never been so important. So
you're talking about if a guy was sort of ranked in 21st, only had Reid Marnie and Tyrone Wishart as his hookers, he might be in a little bit of trouble there?
He may be.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Here we go. That's what the Countdown Show is about, giving people advice. Got heaps of questions coming through. So what have we got here? I can't talk. There's a lot of chat about what's going on with my forehead right here. It was a scratch from my 2.5-year-old. So
you get that on the big games.
No more chat about that. Mikey looks like Morgan Harper.
Pledges are coming through already.
Let's discuss this. Let's get the zingers going. I think Mikey looks like nearly anyone you can think of. Yeah. He looks a little bit like Morgan Harper. He looks a little bit like Anari Tawala. He's got a little bit of Stephen Crichton about him. He even looks like
Prince.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of... he blends into a different...
the artist formerly known as Prince. Yeah.
Simple.
Happy with all of those.
Heaps of stuff coming through. So send your zingers through, guys. We'll have the final teams in a sec. Zinger. 1 in 3 on this panel eats more KFC than the others. Guess who? Guilty. If Manu definitely out? We'll get to that in a sec, but looks like Joseph Manu will play.
Nice.
At least Sangster has the best haircut for once.
I'll accept that.
What else have we got here? Oh, we'll get to that in a sec, but we'll have final teams for you very shortly. In terms of tonight's game, it's the Broncos v the Eels. Big SuperCoach players in this game. Ezra Mam is one of the most sold players. Do you own him and will you be selling?
I own Ezra Mam still. Look, as I said, I'm a bit light on trade, so I'm not selling right now. I'm very tempted to. I think it makes sense where he's sitting right now with the most trades. But at the same time, like his break-even's not too bad.
33-ish or something like that?
Yeah, it's not the greatest matchup, but hey, he's had a lot of attacking, upside lately. And the Broncos keep turning up even when you don't think they will. So I'm holding personally because I think holding a trade's way more valuable than
But
using
maybe
it.
not play him?
Yeah, I'm not playing him this week. I think, I don't like playing him this week, but I'm going to hold on, hope he surprises me as a big game this week, and I can look to sell him for a bit more money. So, but yeah, it makes sense that he's one of the most sold.
In terms of the final teams, the Broncos team has just dropped. They've only got the one change with Flegler coming into the starting 13. Payne Haas has been cleared, which is big news for SuperCoaches. Do you still own him? What are your plans with him going forward?
No, I don't have him. I wouldn't be looking to get him back. Just
Yeah.
with the amount of lack of trades and it's not required for my side. I don't need any more props.
I'm hoping, I've held him for a while and I've gone through that period of him averaging 50-odd points for 5 or so weeks. I'm hoping after this rest for 2 weeks that he'll come back and start firing and get up there again with guys like Tapane, Isaiah Papali'i, etc. in that position.
So you're playing him this week then?
Playing him tonight, so I need to make that decision tonight. We'll have the Eels team in a sec, but we're expecting Madison to play, which is big news for them. Will Penasini, third most sold player this week.
If you haven't already sold him, I could understand for sure. Like, you're trying to get your final sides now, and he might not be that guy. He's the kind of guy that you probably can play some weeks. He just doesn't have the upside that some of the others that you'd be chasing. So people are probably either trying to get the likes of Val Holmes, To'o into their side in the centres. Maybe they want Garrick if they don't have him. Joey Manu. There's a lot of options there, so you'd definitely be looking to swing him on, even though he's done a good job for us.
Yeah, Penasini's gone for me. He's starting to leak cash. He's one of those rookies who absolutely killed it at the start of the year, but the rookie season in SuperCoach is really tough. In the actual NRL is really tough. So he's one of these guys who's hit the wall a little bit, but hopefully he can fire up for the Eels in the coming weeks. What are your thoughts on Dylan Brown? Mitch Moses. I want to talk about Mitch Moses with you because he was your big on that bye round. You captained him. That made you go up a whole bunch of positions. How do you think he'll go tonight against the Broncos, and are you VCing him?
Not VCing him. How do I think he's going to go? I don't know. I'm really nervous. I've been so tempted all week to sell him, but selling him, it's only because I'm curious on some other players. Like, obviously I'd like to have Nico Hines in my side. I'd like to have DCE in my side with the amount of people that are talking about getting DCE. I'm just worried that he's going to kill it because everyone's doing it. But look, I think I just need to trust Moses tonight and just hope if he can get me 50 points, I will take it. If he gets more than that, I'll be stoked.
I've got the Eels team has just dropped as well, and Madison is in, which is big news. What are your thoughts on Madison this year?
Look, I think if you brought him in hoping him to play the bye and then be disappointed and for him to come back now, I think he could be good for the run home because I think a lot of us in a position, if we need a second row, would be going after your Fafitas, your Cameron Murrays. I think some people might forget Madison just because how much he's costing and other people might have gone lane. So, yeah, I like him. Would I bring him in right now? I don't think I would, but for those who hold him...
Good hold, not a buy, I don't think.
If he absolutely kills it this weekend, then a lot of people will be all over him next week, I'd say.
Yeah, especially if you get the idea that rib's not bothering him, he's taking some hits and he's bouncing back fine, good to go.
If there's plenty of offloads tonight, then absolutely lock him in. Right now, send your questions through. We've already done a few, but we're going to pimp your teams. So many questions coming through on Facebook. You can hit us up at Twitter as well with the hashtag #SuperCoach. We've got Teddy or Latrell, a really good question at fullback. Thoughts?
Do you want to comment on this before I chime in?
Yeah, to me, we've been talking about this a lot this week. Tedesco, I just think he's the scariest. Like, if there was one player I have to have, it's Tedesco. I think with the run home and with all these fullbacks going down, I think not having Tedesco could be like detrimental to your side. So they're both really good players. The Bunnies draw is a bit tough. Latrell he's pretty good against the tough teams, but I'd just be too scared not to own Tedesco. I still think he's not at first gear. I still think he's just below it. And if you can get to first gear, you know what he's like in SuperCoach. So it'd be Tedesco every day of the week for me.
I really can't split them for me just because Latrell's looking great. He's just come back from overseas. He's done the whole America thing. He's done a documentary. He said no to Origin. He's going to do the job for the Bunnies. So all the ticks there, it just seems right, feels good. He was looking good the last 2 weeks, but touches the ball a lot less than Turbo.
Yes.
I feel like the Roosters will time their run well into the finals, and that should mean he should go well as well. But it's just really hard. I have Latrell when I got him because it was like a bit of a trying to be sneaky over the bye period to get those extra points. But if I could pick one or the other now and it wasn't going to cost me a trade, I'd probably go with Teddy rather than Latrell.
Teddy just gets his hands on the ball so much. And I'm going to go with Munster this week just because he's so far clear at 5'8". But next week I'm hoping to get in Tedesco with a few little dual position trades there as well, springing a guy like Nico Hines. I just think that he is on the ball so much. The problem I've got with Tedesco is that how are the Roosters actually going to go? Like, they're not that good a team this year, and that means that could be detrimental for Teddy.
Yeah, it's a good point, but when they're against like a weaker matchup, he seems to just absolutely abolish them. And I wouldn't say your Dragons are a weaker matchup this week, but I think for most of them...
They're a good target to be playing this
year.
They're
playing at their home.
Attacking footy against them, like they're actually... I think it's one of the boys on the SuperCoach Champs show found a stat or something to do with fullbacks against the Dragons have been the best.
Right.
Yeah, so I think maybe Gary's a good shout.
This week.
Maybe
All
even,
right.
you know...
I could pull a reverse trade live on the show. It could be happening soon. Zingers are coming through. They're saying Mike has a voice for radio. Dulcet tones.
Richard Mercer, it's sexy.
Richard, it is. It really is. I didn't know the green Teletubby played SuperCoach. I don't mind that. If you do send a zinger, it'll pop up on the screen like this. And if you do win the zinger of the week, you can win one of these balls sitting on the panel right here. Saying, could you flip the QR code for the 5 extra trades? Rob Sutherland stitched me up so well for that one. Teddy's due for a double ton. It could happen. Lots of Teddy v Latrell questions. Kalen Ponga, though.
Hey, hold on. You didn't complete the zinger. Mikey has a voice for radio if there was a radio for deaf people. I don't get what that means, but complete the zinger.
No, they weren't being nice.
Yeah.
I was just going with the compliment, part of it first.
Just because he's popping his cherry, you don't have to go easy on him, mate. Zing him up, get that spice in there.
It's just such a
I had an actual genuine
voice.
question come through, which I think is a good discussion point because I've heard some people talking about it as KP, as a pod, and the more you talk about pods on these sorts of programs, the less they become a pod. But to balance that out for people that do want to get KP, and they want to keep him as a pod, I don't think it's a great buy. Only because not because I don't think KP's not the greatest, or the draw's not that good, all of that. I just think there's better options, and if you're purely doing it just because it's a pod, it's no good. Do the guy that you think that's going to get the most points.
If he was dual position, then you'd be all over him as a
100%.
pod. But at fullback, it's just such a stacked position this year with Tedesco, etc. I couldn't do it myself.
But trust your gut, though. On that flip side, if you've seen what you've seen in Origin of Ponga ripping it up against the Blues, and you've seen little glimpses in NRL, and you thought, hold on, if the Knights can play some decent footy, they give him the right ball, they're in the attacking end enough, then maybe he sets some up.
I feel like that's the issue with
Trust your
Ponga.
gut.
He's a little bit like Dane Gagai in that he fires up for like a couple of big games per year, but week in, week out, he's not up there with someone like
He's got the origin
Tedesco.
switch, like Gagai.
Yeah, the origin
that's
switch. Origin Gagai.
So
that's why I'm avoiding there. And whereas Tedesco, every single game, you know that he's going to make close to 20 runs and be involved.
There
as
has
much
been
as
plenty of
possible.
50s that we've been disappointed with from Tedesco throughout the year.
Past month has been pretty good. When you look at it, he's only been owned by about 20% of everyone selling in ins and outs, and he's been posting his 4-round average. He's not too bad, and as I said, I think that big score's right around the corner.
Basically scored a ton too when Joey Manu was able to get basically a double ton, so there's points out there. Yeah.
Josh is asking David Fafita, so pretty popular last week, especially after Murray went down. He's asking David Fafita or Payne Haas. What do you reckon about Payne Haas as a buy this week at 470k or whatever it is?
Price
It's
is
very
attractive.
cheap for a guy who's
Price is
done,
right.
Especially
what
when
he's
that
done.
extra money could maybe allow you to do something else with your next trade next week that
Yeah.
you might be like, oh, I'm short of that and now I can do that because I got Haas. But Fafita's got that upside. He can just do the same thing as a Joey Manu, get into dummy half, palm everyone up and say, see you later, slam the ball down, and there's...
I
yes.
agree. Yeah, so Fafita's my captain this week, actually, with that matchup
cheeky.
against the Bulldogs, which
Cheeky.
I shouldn't have put that out there because I know I'm up in a whole bunch of head-to-head matchups, and I might change it later on, but I think he was decent on his return last week.
Yeah,
he's one of these
75,
guys
and
you
he did
get...
not-
Yeah, with
great deal.
like coming back from injury too, and he's one of these guys that can take a little bit of time to build up in
Flat track
fitness.
bully, maybe Rex the
So
Dogs.
hopefully that's what I'm hoping for.
He didn't cross over last week, and yeah, he looked like he didn't do too much for that 75 points. He's one of my options this week too for captain option, and I'd definitely go David Fafita over Payne Haas. But if you need a front rower at 480k, it'd be hard to go past Payne Haas, especially if you can get back to anything like he did at the start. But I still don't think he's going to be at 100%. He might be better than what he was, but I still think he's going to be a little bit hindered.
Yep. Well, we've got a big game tonight. Eels v the Broncos. Let's go through the burning issues. Dylan Brown, very popular buy.
Is he?
Probably a couple. No, probably two. About to say about 2 months ago, he was very popular. Gone off the boil a bit. People are going for guys like Munster, Tedesco if they've got the right jewels, etc.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Dylan Brown tonight, and how do you think he'll go?
Oh, I can't. I feel like I'm going to get about somewhere between 50 and 70 from him tonight. That's my gut feeling. I don't love it, but I feel like I don't have to move it on. I'm scared if Munster does come out and score 120 because Stormer lost 3 games in a row, and he's now with Pappy gone, he just commands everything, and because it could be wet footy as well, less passing, more running for him, just palming people off. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a big one from Dylan Brown, but I'm happy to roll him out.
Yeah, he's not a guy who's on my radar, but definitely taking the field tonight, and I know that he is well owned in SuperCoach. What are your thoughts on Dylan Brown this year?
He's been really good. I've wanted to own him on a few occasions, but as you said, like this 5'8" spot, you only got 2 spots, and there's just so many big players that you want. Like I couldn't fit him in. How do I feel about him this week? I agree with Timmy. Between 50 and 70 seems to be pretty safe, but is that what you want when you've got guys like Munster who can go 120 plus, and there's plenty of other guys in that position? But yeah, it's going to be a wet game tonight out in Parramatta, and you know what I mean? If Parramatta do what they do best at Bankwestern, or CommBank I should say, and turn up, then he could be in for a bit of big score. And
Parra's draw's not great. That's the part that's bothering me. So I've sort of drew out my own little handwritten thing you can see here.
Wow, can you show it?
I don't know,
this
can you
to
get
the
a
camera?
close
Can you
up?
get a bit of a zoom in on
Drop it
that?
like it's
I'm not
hot.
sure-
It's
I'm not
doing the
sure if
wrong
it's-
angles. I can't do this. I'm
I'm
not
not sure
good
if
with
it's even
technology.
possible, but
Oh, here we
that's
go.
It's a beautifully coloured spreadsheet. In case
See
you
that?
can't see it.
No, it's just upsetting people that are trying to view.
oh, and you can kind of see the colours in there. It's
Oh, that's really annoying to the people at home. But okay, basically I've just done the thing that people do on the internet with spreadsheets.
Yep.
But I did it with a pen.
Yes.
And highlighters. So yeah, I put out my own colours of. Yeah,
it's actually written. Oh,
Yeah,
man,
so-
I looked at it
Highlighted,
closely.
written
I
and
thought-
So
I
I put
genuinely thought it was a
the top
spreadsheet.
nine's draw for the next 7 games. Only the top 9.
That's great.
Because I couldn't fit the rest of the teams in the piece of paper. And all the green have 4 points.
Yep.
Yellow. So basically, what I've coloured them has a point system. So the third worst draw is the Eels in my scoring system here. So not a great draw for them. They've got the Broncos this week. It's a bit of an awkward game. Don't know really. I think it's going to be 18-12 for anyone who likes to pay attention to the scoreline. Panthers, Manly, Bunnies, Dogs, good. But then we've got Broncos again, which I think they're good, and then Storm to finish off. Tough draw.
We need to get you to post this to social media somewhere.
I'll put it in the comments if it's possible.
The scribblings of a SuperCoach champion.
You can't do photos on here, can you?
It actually, you've got very nice handwriting, I have to say.
I got a pen license in year 2. I'll just let you know. I was one of the first.
You got it early.
Yeah.
Do they even do those these days?
That's a good question. Very good question.
All right, let's move on to Isaiah Papali'i. Unfortunately, I have to VC him this tonight.
Why?
Because my non-players are playing so early in the round, so I wouldn't be able to do the loophole with anyone else other than IPAP or someone playing tomorrow night. And I don't have any players tomorrow night. So I have to VC him, and he's very popular. He's at about 12% in terms of the VC. But I don't like that move. How do you think that IPAP will go tonight?
Oh, you hadn't thought on this before. So
I don't like it as a VC. It's boring.
It's so boring, yeah. But if you have to do it, you have to do it.
When you haven't, say you're not in Sanks's predicament here and you have options, you want to go someone with a high upside. Like last week, a lot of us jumped on the Joe Manu VC and was the reason a lot of us moved up. And that was a pod move. That was 4% and his ceiling was huge. So I think each week you should be trying to target.
If IPAP scores you 100 points, you're in a tough position going, am I going to loop
You're not
this?
going to loop
You can't loop
for 100. You can't.
Especially if you have Grant Anderson looming in your thing, you don't know where he's going to go. That's 10 points right there. So I think you've got to make sure you go for a guy, because 100 points will make you think about a loop, but I don't think it'd be the right choice.
In your case, though, you probably just need to trust the captain that you're going with, and then if your captain doesn't play for whatever reason, at least you've got a safe IPAP there as your VC.
Exactly. And I think the main point I want to make here is, if you're watching for the first time and you haven't done too many loopholes, is that you need to do a dry run of this before it happens. You need to check who's going to come in. You can't just pick, Nathan Cleary's playing pretty early in the week, so I'll put the VC on him. You need to do a dry run of everything, work out how it all happens and who gets locked out when, and work out who you can actually use as your VC. Quick question without notice, who is your VC this weekend?
Who's my VC this week? That's probably something I'm not even anywhere near yet. I'm still trying to work out my trades, but I don't think I'm going to be looping this week, my gut feel. If I bring in Tedesco, it'll be Tedesco. But the problem is I don't think I can affect my loops because the guys that I'm looking at are pretty much later in the round. I don't like anything tonight. I don't like anything. Or actually, I might go Garrick.
Garrick?
I might. Just because it's early. I might. Yeah.
Quick VC?
Yeah, DCE. So bringing him in for Paps this week, and I just spoke about pod high ceilings. DCE it is.
We'll go to so much chat about Latrell Mitchell this week, and one of the reasons he is one of the most purchased players is that he scored the SuperCoach Player of the Week last week. Let's roll the tape.
Probing, offload, beautiful. Mitchell, look at big Latrell. Mitchell. It is all Latrell Mitchell. That is awesome. Mitchell at his menacing best.
Sorry, there are some crazy comments coming through that definitely can't be mentioned. But in terms of Latrell, we've spoken about him already, but do you agree with Latrell being the most purchased player this week?
I don't agree with him being the most purchased because of the matchup. I love it. I kind of like that I have him. I don't love it as a buy now. I thought you should have been on it got on him when he was playing the buy round.
The buy round, yeah, 100%. That's when you need to get on. I still think that Latrell...
but with Pappy going
interested.
down, if you don't want to report, if you've already got Teddy, maybe Latrell's the next guy, and that makes sense. So
Latrell is not a particularly SuperCoach friendly player in that he does not have a high work rate at all.
He can get missing. I've got a different vibe about him now. There's an aura.
Exactly what I was about to say. He looks so keen. He looks to be so committed to the Rabbitohs this year that going without him it's going to be scary watching the Rabbitohs without him, even with tough matchups, because he does tend to fire up against the big teams as well.
Yeah, well, funny you say that because I'm doing exactly that. I feel like sometimes, especially if you want to go up a bit up, when everyone goes left, you go right. So it makes sense. If Tedesco and Latrell are going to be your two best fullbacks, but if you're feeling something else, like I'm feeling DCE could be a good option, I'm doing him instead of Latrell. But you're right, saying so I'm going to be very scared not owning him watching those games. But
on the flip side, if I own Latrell, I'm probably not going to be able to get DCE. I'm equally as scared, probably if not more, that he's getting DCE that
4%
I own,
owned.
but I can't make that trade 'cause it's going to cost me a trade. So you can't have them all. There's going to be one or two players that are out-and-out guns that I've identified that you won't be able to have. You just can't fit them in.
There's a question come through just now about DCE and the goal-kicking duties.
Well, you
Does
gave
that
us a bit of
affect-
a info on this, didn't you? Bit of early, late, maybe?
I'll leave that for Tim Williams for tomorrow to get out. But yeah, I think I don't want to reveal his story. But DCE, if he's not kicking goals, what do you reckon?
Oh, as a potential owner, I didn't buy him going, yep, he's going to kick goals for the rest of the season, because I assume that if Garrick stayed fit and healthy, he's going to get him back. And it doesn't bother me. We know what DC can do. And the main reason I like him, even without the goals, is this Manly team has surprised me. I thought without Tom we'd see the same story where they'd struggle to get wins. I think they're playing better footy. Like, they're playing really good footy without him. So I think Garrick and DC, those two and Owakalatu, I think they're very key players for them, not in just SuperCoach, but for their team. So I don't have Garrick, so the flip side is DCE, and I think those two are going to be heavily involved in their attacking. So goal kicking would be nice, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Yep, good call there. Let's go late mail. So many late changes this week. Let's run through them. So repeating the news for tonight's games, there's not much happening really, but I'll point out that Ryan Madison has been cleared and Payne Haas is going to play as well, so you can safely lock in those two very popular SuperCoach players. In terms of late mail, Joey Manu's still in a bit of doubt, but the great late mail man Tim Williams says that he's likely to play. Keep an eye on late mail, but thankfully they play pretty early in the round. They're on
Third game,
the third game, so they're Friday night. So you should know pretty early on. In terms of Joey Manu, though, I want to ask you, he's been killing it at fullback, he's been killing it at 5'8", back to centre this week with a whole bunch of players back, including Luke Keary. What are your thoughts on him as a buy this week? Would you be going out of your way to get him now that he's back in that centre position?
It's a really tough one. As an owner, I'm pretty glad I have him. It's annoying that he's gone to centres as an owner, but as a non-owner, it makes if he was at fullback or 5'8", you're like, okay, I just got to get him. But now he's moved to centres, it's kind of like, oh, he's going to touch the ball a bit less. Maybe I don't have to. But the thing is, Joey Manu says all the time, I just play my footy. Wherever I play, I just play my style of footy. Yeah. But the thing is, he's going to get less touches out in centres compared to fullback or 5'8". So
I think if you were trying to split, so the three most popular purchases in that position this week are Manu, Garrick, and Val Holmes. Who would you be going with out of those three? Or throw someone else into the mix as well.
Dewey.
Yeah, we've been.
If the Tigers were going slightly better, I'd be all over Dewey.
Dewey killed it last year, and
he's
Tigers
dropped 160k, and
but last year you could only get him in 5'8", which I did, which was a key factor for me winning SuperCoach. And do you know what? You can get him in CWT and squeeze him in amongst 7 other players this year.
Yeah, you're right. Could you go him over a Holmes or those three?
That's
are all
the problem
tough.
this year. Yeah.
See, Manu, if Keary somehow goes out of that side with injury again, which is possible, concussion, and Manu goes back to 5'8", he's an absolute must. You need him. But if he stays in centre, then I think I prefer Garrick or Holmes based on goal kicking, and per your spreadsheet, that Cowboys run is really good.
Yeah,
so
next 3
I wouldn't mind.
Holmes
Holmes could be a good one.
I think Holmes is definitely the pod out of that lot, and
Dewey's the bigger pod of all of those 4.
Dewey. But Holmes is up to. Yesterday he was at 10%, so he's probably at maybe 12%.
He's been brought in by 6,500. I looked an hour ago. So
it seems like it's a pod, but not a pod. A lot of people are talking it as a pod because a lot of people are talking it as a pod. A lot more people are now doing it, which making it less of a pod. But it's good because he kicks goals. The run's good. The team's going fantastic. But I mean, he's in the centres. Centres are a little bit better this year than they were last year. They are getting some try assists, but with the amount of key players in that side, I can see, maybe it not working out as well as we'd like. But
it's definitely a big decision to be made this weekend. Looks like
I'd probably go Garrick over those 3, over Manu. Just with the draws, everything factored in, kicking and everything. Garrick is definitely.
He's one of about 7 people on my radar for next week. Ruben Garrick, Richie Kenner. So there's a chance that he could come in in the back line in place of Jed Cartwright. Now, Cartwright was a pretty popular cheapie this week. Would you be reversing that trade for Jed Cartwright if he doesn't play, or is it actually better if he just gets ruled out?
Depends what you're buying him for. If you're buying him for, potential now and then as enough, then yeah, you can do it. Obviously, if you're trying to get him as enough, you're not getting him at bottom dollar price. But I guess if you start to run out of trades...
If you want a genuine enough, find a genuine other enough.
But if you wanted a bit of depth, then you also wanted him as a number, and he's now around this 18th, 19th man. Might not be so bad, but yeah, I don't think I entirely like it.
I feel like if you want depth, you'd go for Jojo Fafita this week as the cheapie and not Jed Cartwright.
Yeah, and if you want enough, go Shannon Harris.
Shannon Harris is pretty popular. And speaking of nuffs, Grant Anderson could be back into that team for the Storm this week with Wishart moving to the bench.
Can't see Wishart playing on the wing.
So
crazy.
I know I filled in from last week under emergency, but when you've got a plan the whole week, I don't see that Craig Bellamy will go, yeah, that's the best option for us this weekend.
So how do you think that's going to affect Anderson, though? Because he's one of these... I mean, he's playing at the Storm. He can score a lot of tries, but it looks like he can go pretty low as well.
Well, if they play poor again, then, yeah, it could be detrimental. As I said, all of us looking at, like, a potential looping, he could be a real thorn in,
I don't feel like he's a good thing. I know he's at the Storm, and if he does keep that wing spot for the year, I can't see him being on the back of, like, a gift, 3 tries or anything for some reason. I don't know. I just can't see it.
14 to 20 points in 80 minutes, and, I think it doesn't really matter if he plays on the bench or that. We could be in trouble either way.
So I guess my main question here is, how hard are you going on the nuffs? Are you going for... Usually at this time of the year, everyone just goes nuff, and you use the VC loophole for the next 6 rounds till the end of the season. Are you going to go hard on that this year or leave a couple of guys up your sleeve?
Well, you don't have enough trades to start nothing, do you?
No, but if I did, I still don't think I would unless I really needed to. We mentioned before in the pod about COVID. So you're going to want those trades in case one of your big man goes down. What if they go down in the last 2 rounds? If you've got a trade, you'll happily trade them, where a lot of other players aren't going to be able to do that. So, I don't really... If you can avoid the nothing, then don't. I guess, I've got no trades, but I've got 460k in the bank, so I guess, I don't have to nuff, so...
I don't have enough trades to be nuffing myself, and I also find that I have too many nuffs already.
Yeah.
I've probably got more nuffs than the average bear, and I'm a bit worried about the COVID thing, so try avoid it if you can. That's why I picked up Pole. When I picked him up last week, I was like, at least he's a cheapie, he might play for me. If things go terrible, I might need him to do 30 or 40
Just
points.
Just get your 40 points out of nowhere. So many questions coming through. The Morgan Harper chat is, there's just so much Morgan Harper chat.
I knew I'd
smash
get it.
Talakai, though. You run Talakai,
and there's a lot of...
smash him, bro. He's from the area, bro.
I'm not even an Islander, but hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, but Morgan Harper couldn't handle Talakai. That's the point. You could. That's what I'm saying. Talakai, run at him.
We seem to have nuffed out early on the SuperCoach countdown show. Yeah, fair enough. There's some talk to bring back Robert Bruns for a show as well. They like it when
he's a loose goose. We love him.
Yeah, loosey goosey. David Fafita or Cameron Murray? How would you split those guys? I can't really talk about this because I got both. I got Fafita last week, and I'm bringing in Murray this week ahead of some guys like Garrick and Holmes, etc. Just because my forward pack isn't very good. But how would you split those two?
All 3 of us own David Fafita, so I guess that's saying something. You don't own Murray, do you? No. I don't own Murray.
I love him, though.
I love him, yeah, but I think the reason we all go Fafita is just the upside. And although people brought him in last week, he's still kind of a pod. He's still, I think, around
23.
15. Oh, it's not bad for David Fafita.
Yeah.
When I looked at him last, he was under 20, so... I don't mind it at all. I think I'd prefer him just with his upside. We know he can go 150. He's versing the Bulldogs this week. He hasn't scored a try since he's come back. But in the flip side, what if he's not 100% and gets hurt again? That's a tough battle.
Worst team.
Yep.
You only have a bit of a tough draw. It doesn't really hurt. I don't think Murray, though, in that position, it's more sort of going to affect your, halves and your fullbacks and wingers and stuff like that. The attacker players.
Fafita is my sneaky my sneaky C this week. I'll put it out there, but I could change it. Might just be throwing out a few random
Smoke and mirrors,
thoughts.
doing some Craig Bellamy's.
A bit of Craig Bellamy action. Let's do right now guilty pleasures. So this is the player that you shouldn't pick, but you can't help yourself. Who's that this week? For me, it's Look, I've got a lot of positions to fix up. I think I should be concentrating on centre wing, but for some reason I'm drawn towards Cameron Murray, even with the concussion issues and stuff the last couple of weeks.
I can understand the way you've created as a bit of a guilty. I don't really have any guilty pleasures for the trades I'm bringing in because I'm like, if I thought they were somewhat guilty, I just wouldn't do it. I'd just do the things I feel most innocent about. But the one that's popped up to my mind was a guy I had last year, the Goz. I had him at the start of the season, Jack Giagovski. He was there for the whole year, just couldn't get rid of him. And when he started getting a little bit of time in footy this year, I thought, could I bring him in? I just like him. I like his name, the Goz. I like
the Goz.
Yeah. I like a bit of a cult hero.
Who's your guilty pleasure?
I don't say I don't have entirely one, but close to it is, I guess, I talked myself out of it, but I really wanted Valentine Holmes. I just looked at his run, his kicking goals, the Cowboys are playing great, and I really wanted to get him, but I talked myself out of it with the minimal trades, but I'd say definitely that'd be my guilty pleasure because I don't need a centre wing, but I really want him.
We've spoken a lot about Latrell Mitchell. He obviously went over to the US and rehabbed that hamstring injury. This is a teaser of the documentary.
In a league of his own.
SuperCoach on Meat Gone Global. We in Philly, baby. Ready to go. Get some training done, get strong, get back to the south, do my thing. Can't wait. Obviously get myself strong and then be able to carry all the things I learned for the next 14 days through my whole career.
Is gifted to learn something quickly, has a lot of skills and power and speed and can express it, competitive, things like that. He's pretty special.
Yeah, it's what I love to do, and like I said, people can take the piss out of this trip and say, oh, he's a golden boy, or he can't even back up a season, he can't play finals. I said, well, this is why I'm investing in myself, because I'm so invested in the club, because I want to go to that level. And once we get there, there's no stopping me. Sky's the limit.
So watching that live, it looks like Mikey's getting a bit of cold feet on DCE. Is that true?
Oh, looking at it, man, like I know you said it early about Latrell, and it makes you think, do I need to grab him? Is anti-potting the right thing? He's the kind of player that definitely not owning him could be detrimental to my season. So
could this be the biggest year that Latrell Mitchell ever has?
I mean, it's looking like he's the most dialed in, that's for sure, and he's looking really fit.
Could he do Tommy Turbo things? Then Tommy Turbo just came back and went wham, bam, 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 15 minutes. Could he do it in 10? Could Latrell Mitchell be the...
I don't know if he can get the
mathematically,
but I still think that he can get them pretty deep into the finals, particularly when him and Cody Walker got that combination going.
The story's set up for him. Comes back from injury, Bunnies are struggling, comes back and carries them to a final.
I love a narrative.
So, yeah, it's definitely going to make me think about this before I lock a trade in.
We've spoken about it a fair bit already, but Cheapies versus Nuffs, we're going to do the Cheapie of the week. Look, if I was going to go for a Cheapie, and I've said it already, but Jojo Fafita I think is by far the best Cheapie this week, even though he's only played one game. You're going a week early. I don't think that matters too much at this time of the year.
I just like the name. It just scares people at quick glance. They look and they go, oh, you got Fafita. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's even got the Titans logo on it, so it's very scary at first.
I typed it in today, and there's something like 6 Fafitas in the NRL. It's basic.
Wow.
There's a Viliami Fafita, which just blows my mind. I love that.
It's probably rivaling like Smith as one of the most popular surnames in rugby league right now. He's also known as Sesefo Fafita as well. So on the team list, you'll see him as Sesefo, but in SuperCoach, it is Jojo Fafita.
It's confusing.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. With if I had to get a cheapie this week, it would be him. I know we mentioned Jed Cartwright before as well as an option, but the thing that worries me about Fafita, if you're happy for him to become enough, then sweet. But if you want him to kind of as like a bit of backup, like, you know, what if they've got plenty of centre wings at the Gold Coast Titans? Like, what if they call back Greg Marzihue or something? Like, there's just so many different options. If they keep not performing and not get a win, they're going to make changes again.
Heaps of questions coming through. There's always Bullimore questions on here. No. The answer is just no. Cooler, Mam, or McInnes as final reserve this week?
Cooler.
Cooler's been killing it, hasn't he? Thoughts?
Yeah.
Just like the matchup he's got against the Dragons, and I, for some reason, have been saying on podcasts, Cooler could outscore this player all week. And it's just a hypothetical, but I've used it as my hypothetical. So for some reason, I feel like Cooler's going to have a big one because I've used it as my hypothetical.
I feel like because I sold him a couple of weeks ago, he's just gone absolutely gangbusters since then. And I've said on pretty much every podcast, Cooler's going to go big at some stage this year. It's going to happen for him. It's going to happen for him. I sold him 2 weeks ago and he's got a ton last week. It's just how it happens. I still back that trade though. It was in the buy round. You had to get it done. Thoughts on traded Edwards for Latrell, but I'm not sure on this at all.
I wouldn't want to hold on to Edwards just because I don't think you're going to get ahead with Edwards, even though not many people have him. He's probably going to get you, the 60s, 70s, and you'd be pumped when he gets you an 80. He can get you 100, but Penrith don't use him as their attacking strike weapon, whereas Latrell's the man. So if you like what you see in Latrell, then get him. Depends on how many trades you got too as well. Like if you've got less than 4, I'd be taking it a little bit easy and maybe not swap players that are playing for other players that are also playing. You definitely don't need to do that.
NJ is asking Dylan Edwards or Holmes this week in the fullback position.
Holmes.
I think you have to go Holmes with the rum. Yeah. I think that's... and a lot of questions about Drinkwater as well. What do you reckon?
Yeah, he's not a bad player.
Do you still own him?
Nah, I sold him.
You sold,
Yeah, I sold Drinky. I had to get, who did I get in? I got in Latrell Mitchell, the man we speak of, I think. But, he's a good player. He can kill it. He's in a good side. They've got a pretty good draw. But if you look through the scores, there are some scary ones in there. And it's just something, if you're going to take that risk, you've got to be prepared that you know that you can get that low score. But if you want to take the risk, take it.
Jeremy is asking Angus Crichton or Cody Walker for last reserve. So Crichton's got a good matchup against the Knights. Cody's got a pretty tough matchup. Who have they got? Is it the Storm?
The Storm.
Yeah,
He's popped out a 17 and a 16 in his past 2 scores against them, but...
He also busted out the record score at the time against the Roosters.
Exactly when we thought he couldn't do it.
I was selling him this week, but I'm not only this week, only because I think, can I just wait till next week? He's got a 0 BE, and I'm thinking maybe any money that he makes, that 30K, 50K, whatever it might be, could be the factor in me making the trade I need next week.
The factor for me is that Latrell and Cody together, I think something
going on.
Stuff is going to happen. It may not be good stuff, but there's going to be stats that are going to come out of that.
Yeah, I've made the call too. I think that the Storm will target Latrell. They'll go, well, he's our danger man. Let's put 2 or 3 guys on him, which should give a bit of space to Cody at the back. AJ,
3 tries.
Owner of AJ, goes over for a Hattie. Not a Hattie, but we'll get one. We'll be happy with one.
I'd be happy with 3.
Last reserve out of McInnes or Talakai. Personally, I'd be going Talakai just because he's got upside, and we've got a question here. Who are your final 2 fullbacks? Quickly.
Well, one is definitely Latrell, unless he stinks it for some reason against the big teams, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm going to lock him in and just can't trade him. Pappenhausen's got to go. I'm not too sure who's going to be my final fullback. I think it's probably going to be Teddy, though.
Yeah, I've currently got... So Tedesco I want to get in next week, but I've got Nico Hines in that position now.
Well, that's the thing, because you can move Nico Hines there for this week, but then you can move Nico Hines back there and get someone else there. So that's who's your final fullback.
It's so handy. So I think, I'll end up with Tedesco there at some stage.
I liked it because there are a few players that we don't know who we're going to get. If you just wait another week, one of them might go down injured or something might happen and then it answers the question for you. So I like that you don't have to make all your decisions this week. You can go, I definitely want these 2 guys this week, and I'll decide between those 3 that are really hard to toss up in the next coming weeks.
Well, Trent Copeland hosted the show last week. Tim, you were on. We're going to do Cope's captains right now. Right, so Nathan Cleary right at the top of the list. He's at 18%, which is it's pretty high for this. It's
understandable.
Are you a Panthers fan as well?
Yeah, massive Penrith fan.
Like, are you two? I mean, should I even be asking this question?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to captain him. I'm scared, and I think I might insure myself with maybe a VC. I said Garrick earlier, but he's just late in the round, isn't he? He's a bit in the middle of
Saturday 5:30. Surprisingly, I'm not interested. Surprisingly,
he's playing the Sharks. The Sharks are pretty good. They kept the Cowboys to 12 points last week.
It's at home. Like, I actually don't know what the stat is off the top of my head, but what does he average?
But I feel like he's at least going to get you 90 points in a
bad.
bad game, so you can take that as your captain.
Quick thing too, Penrith haven't been home if you count those rep round bye and the bye that they had recently. They haven't been at home in a month. So
He's
I
back
reckon
from a loss on Origin.
He's had a resting. To be honest, he could have a massive one, but
Went to the Manchester United game and they tagged him on their page. That's a pretty big deal.
Huge.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game, and I just don't know if he could go 125 plus this week. And I think it's a good week to try and go away from the crowd.
Go away from it. Yep.
I
Huge
can't
call.
say no to anybody that wants to captain him.
It's a tough week for captaincy this week because a lot of the big guys are in big clashes, really tough matchups, as is the next guy on this list, Nico Hines, who is taking on Keary in that same clash. I feel like Hines away from home at Penrith with Penrith's record at that ground, I can't be going there for captaincy.
Not for me either.
He struggles away from the Sharks' home ground. Well, not struggles, but he seems to get his massive scores at home. So this will be a tough game for them. Either way, I think it's going to be a close one.
You'd have to have like a really blinder against the Panthers. You can still have a great game and not score that well.
Yeah, and the Panthers do have like an amazing defence wherever they play. Certainly when they're at home as well. Tedesco's at 8%. What are your thoughts on him? Latrell playing late on the week as well. Tough matchup.
Yeah, I couldn't. It's Latrell against the Storm feels risky. It's pretty all in. I think it's the Storm have lost 3 games. You feel like they're going to
mind it.
Yeah, I know.
really don't mind it.
We were talking on the way here. We're like, could the Storm just fade out now? And just
We
keep
always
losing
expect them
games?
to bounce back, but what if they don't? Then if you're backing like a Hugo or Latrell this week, or you're backing something else to happen, then that's how you could also get a jump up on everyone else. So I don't think it's out of the question. You look at this lineup and they're missing some key blokes and they're chucking a hooker in the wing, and I'm just going, there's a bit more chaos here than normal. So that's why I'm just waiting a week or Munster, as I would like to have a look at if they can bounce back, which I'm sure they will, but they might not.
Quick one-word answer for this one, no explanations. But
This is going to be hard for me.
Who's your captain right now? For me, it is David Fafita.
Without any lies, Viliami kick-out. He's always my kick-out before I leave him there until I make my mind up. So Viliami kick-out is right now my... Oh, you said one word.
I said one word, yeah.
And Tedesco for me at the moment.
Tedesco. All right, I feel, I agree with you that it is a week to zig while others zag because a lot of the big guys have got tough matchups. We'll take questions till the end of the show. We got just under 3 minutes. What do we got?
Kick-out won't be my captain for anyone who's going to think I'll do what Timmy's doing. I'm not captaining him though. He's just the pre-round one to hype the boys. He hypes the boys up. Yeah.
Brock, do you still own Mulatalo?
Yes.
So question here, to sell May or Mulatalo for Holmes?
I wouldn't sell either of them.
Hold on to both of those guys. And
Sharkies have got a good draw coming up. It's a tough one this week, but you want more Tolo if you're on home.
You don't have to play him. Like I own him, and I'm happily not playing him this round just because I think that the wingers may struggle in Penrith. So you don't have to play him. But yeah,
I reckon you've got another centre you can sell.
They're both very handy blokes to have for their own home.
Harrison saying Valentine Holmes is captain this week. I know Rob Sutherland's doing that. What are your thoughts?
I like that. Joey Manu last week. I know he didn't play centre, but that could be a good one. Timmy.
Apparently you dropped an F-bomb. I didn't even really notice.
I didn't notice either.
I was aware.
Did he?
Yeah, no, when I spoke to you on, I said it was dramatic. I tried to hide it under a few other things, but
it definitely hasn't gone unnoticed on the chat.
Sorry about that. Sorry
sure.
to the good Christian listeners at home.
Valentine Holmes or Cameron Murray. I'm going Cameron Murray. That's only because my forward pack's junk. I'd probably be tempted to go with the upside guy if I had some decent forwards.
Yeah. We had a guy just come in too, Peter, just asked who was my final two fullbacks, because I didn't say it.
Sorry.
Yeah, Tedesco and Hines at the moment, but I think, Tedesco and Mitchell would be the best fullback combo.
We've got a question here. Is Anthony LaFranchi a must? I think we're rewinding about 12 years in SuperCoach there, but he was a must back in the day.
He's great.
Drinkwater or captain... Burbo is a decent question because Burbo's, should you play him this week, looks like he'll come into that team with, is it Andrew Davey out with COVID? So would you play Burbo this week?
My gut says no at this time of the season. Yeah, they're playing a rough draw and he might have one of those games that he had in that breakout game where I think he scored 90 when we all wanted to rush him in.
And he was in centre. If he plays 80 at second row, then have a look at their bench makeup, see who comes onto the bench and what positions they fill. Maybe that's a nice pod move.
Could be good, yeah. I don't know. I just feel...
Depends on the bench.
Look, we're going to crown the zinger of the week, and it's not even a zinger. It's from Rod
Teletubby?
Maroney saying, no, it's not the Teletubby. It's just Rod saying, absolute. I've lost it now. It was a compliment. It was absolute bumper panel tonight. Well done, guys.
Well, Rod,
I think that
we'll
definitely gets
We'll
the
take
zinger
our
of the
time
week.
after the show to spend the time, find that comment, screenshot it, and post it on our social media so everyone knows that we get good reviews.
You're going to get one of these balls right here sent to you. Big thanks to the panel tonight, Mike and Tim from the SuperCoach Experience. We'll catch you next week.